Hello, everybody. It's Graham Cove with a hot, because it is quite warm here at the moment, My Music. I hope you're having a great week, whatever it is that you're doing. I hope if you are in England and you're out in the sun, you're remembering to apply some sunscreen, or sun cream, as we call it here in the UK, as Baz Luhrmann taught us to do in his wonderful hit a few years back. I'm going to be speaking to the wonderful JC Miller about his life in music. But first, we're going to have this quick little video from the wonderful people at Analog Trash.
Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop.
Hello. How are you, sir?
Hey, good. How are you, Graham?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Now, listen, before we get started, we've just got to tell everyone that we are not flogging today a dead horse, are we? Not flogging a
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, see what I did there? Immediately name-checking a song. Oh, Dead Horse Ranch. We're going to be talking about that piece of music, along with just talking about your musical journey overall, really. Where for you did the want to tell a story start?
Oh wow, that's a long story. Let's see. I'll try to keep it brief. I figure it was 1973, and Stairway to Heaven came on my little clock radio at the time, and I was half asleep, and I woke up just in time for the guitar solo, and I was like, "That's it." So I was 13, and then I started playing the broom, and then my mom came in the room and said, "It's time for you to stop playing the broom." And then I started with drums, and then that got too loud, so my parents said guitar. And so the songwriting and the storytelling really came later, because it was like the experience of listening to other songs, and why do I like, a lot of guitar players that are less proficient than other guitar players, and what kind of grooves, I'm really into like second line funk, like Little Feat, and kind of southern kind of New Orleans, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, even Texas, which is where my family's from. And anyway, I kind of put the two together, the musicianship with the songwriting, and then I really kind of got into it from there. But that's kind of what led up to like Dead Horse Ranch, for example, where, that's just a great story, that something with so little hype can be so sublime, that it's not all kind of algorithm based and driven by consensus and all that, but just like, wow, what a beautiful spot, and what an unlikely name. And the ranch was named because the kids were going with their parents to look at ranches in Arizona, and there was a dead horse on one property, and the kids were like, "We like the one with the dead horse," and that's how it got its name. So I just like the smaller story. I like the lens focus on kind of smaller details, rather than like big themes and tackling, relationships and all that kind of stuff. I feel like I like, the storytelling of the smaller moments.
That's interesting. Although, do you feel like by telling those stories of the smaller moments, you inadvertently then, by the way that's then picked up by the listener, end up dealing with the bigger issues?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's it. And it's funny because I can never do that on purpose. You can't engineer that one into the end zone. You got to really just kind of do your best and use your wits. And that's what I started noticing. If you say Dead Horse Ranch, what are you saying? I mean, I've never written a song with the word dead in it, in the title in particular. So yeah, it ends up being universal. Like, it starts with deeply personal and somehow can be a stand-in and a metaphor for like bigger stuff, and that's what I like to do. I like to leave an open question so the listener can flood in with their feelings. It's not about me or my relationships or any of that kind of stuff. It's kind of turning the camera or the microphone backwards, to the listener to fill in what that might mean.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. We're going to obviously talk about some of the people from America that have influenced you or have sort of been there along that journey for you. But I wanted to ask you, obviously coming from the UK, have there been any kind of UK bands or artists that have done that for you? I mean,
of course. I actually lived in England in 1969 and 1970 and loved it, and have been back a bunch of times. So yeah, absolutely. It started with the Top of the Pops when I was a kid. So I mean, I don't know. Let's see. Greatest rock band of all time, Led Zeppelin. Second greatest rock band of all time, Rolling Stones. So huge ones, and just lots of British music. All the kind of blues guys and rock guys, and Paul Kossoff and Free and Bad Company, and it just, what I mean. So to me, it's a generational thing. Founding fathers and mothers, would be Led Zeppelin, the Rolling Stones. Next wave is Bad Company. Deep Purple.
Have you found it quite interesting?
I
was going to say, have you found it quite interesting as you've watched in latter years, people like Plant come back towards America with, the records that he's done with people like Alison Krauss, etc., and sort of touch on Americana, it's.
Oh yeah. I mean, I remember doing a session at the record plant, 35 years ago or something, and Page and Plant were next door, and it literally might as well have been, the Pope and his buddy, or whatever. I just was like completely, blown away because, the East Indian influence in the Jimmy Page. I love, everyone gets on me. I'm not like a Beatles guy, but I do love the George Harrison music, and I love George Harrison a lot. So I like that kind of, cyclical rhythm and the cool modes and stuff. But yeah, Robert Plant and the stuff with Alison Krauss and just if you think about any of it, those guys, the founding father generation I was talking about is, they were looking at Memphis and the American South, and kind of doing their version of that, even Jeff Beck, who I love, and just like most incredible, like phrasing and like, I'm sorry, which planet were you from? Because I'm from Earth, so is everyone else, and you are from, I mean, what just a supreme talent, like a kind of on the Miles Davis level of, improv and invention. They're looking at the American blues guys. So I like that, the cross influence. And, when I focus on the American artists, it's almost because the British bands are like, of course they win. There's no doubt to me, like, there's just no doubt in a way that with what bands have come out of England, they're probably kings, but in my world, there's just not a lot of attention. No one's really talking about Leonard Skinner or Little Feat or Leon Russell or Dr. John or Atlanta Rhythm Section, and it all started when I started really writing my own music, because I was a composer for hire and did a lot of stuff for Levi's and Nike and Coca-Cola, and just kind of got away from that. Wanted to have the music be done when I thought it was done, and not when someone else thought it was done.
Well, and gilding the lily too much.
Yeah, and just kind of false excitement, which I can't relate to, and hype and hype, which I'm allergic to, basically.
Mm.
It's kind of like I like it. Generations gone past, and you still listen to these, Allman Brothers, Leonard Skinner, Marshall Tucker, and again, it's a smaller focus, but it is really universal. It's really, and I like that. It's not overly emphasizing lyrics. It's not overly emphasizing music. It's really a feeling. It's the feeling that you get from the listening, experience. So I'm just trying to shine a light on some of my own personal heroes, Bonnie Raitt, Lucinda Williams. I mean, just lots of new people too. And it kind of goes on the Southern rock emphasis goes under the radar. And when I first was working with Marty, he says, like, "Are you from Texas?" I was like, "No." And he goes, "Louisiana?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "Wow, you just like everything you play, piano, guitar, anything. It's very like Southern centric." And then of course, I realized my father, JC, also, and his father, JC, also. We're all from that area, from the top of Florida, Vernon, all the way across the Panhandle, New Mexico, Arizona, even some made it to California. So it's this kind of sun belt. DNA. Yeah, it's sort of sun belt. It's a sun belt journey, basically. And it's funny that I didn't even know that about myself, that would be what would interest me the most. So it really became this, journey of self-discovery through the music and through the places. When I was a session musician and there would be big holes in the schedule, not a lot of work. I would, in the 80s, drive all through that area, not knowing why I love it and I feel right at home, buying like vintage cowboy boots and vintage, Marlon Brando motorcycle jackets and selling them on Melrose in Los Angeles, and played in bands and went there. And I've just always, felt at home there, particularly with the music, and that's kind of the main thrust of what I'm doing, is like exploring that side.
I think you can really hear like an attachment to places with you. You can hear that. In the music. I'm going to give you an interesting musical example from the UK, which I kind of heard in your music when I was listening to it, which you may or may not have ever picked up on. But we have a Scottish band called Deacon Blue. Have you ever heard of them?
No.
There you go. You see, isn't that great? Yeah, exactly. You see, you've been in the business for years, and now I'm giving you someone to go and listen to. I think that's great, because it's so, you do so many of these interviews and people just list off the people you've already heard of. That's kind of boring.
Right.
But I'll tell you what it was, is I think in the same way that Ricky Ross, the singer with Deacon Blue, he's got a bit of a growl in his voice as well, which is great. You both share a little bit of grit in your voice.
Good.
But also, he, especially on the first album, there is a bit of steel guitar in there as well, played by the wonderful Chris Rea.
Oh, cool! Yeah.
But it's that connection with the intimacy of places and the small detail, and I think that's what if you go and listen to the album Raintown, I think you'll hear it between you and them.
Will.
It's it's a slightly different genre. I'll give you that. Yeah. It isn't the same, but it's that kind of, it's that focus. That album starts with a great piece of music. It goes, that hurricane day will soon pass away, and someone will sweep all the jets and back into the bay. Now look, that's just setting a scene. It's just a story. Right. It's just from a place. Do you know? Right, you immediately get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I immediately get that, and I'm definitely going to check them out. And thanks for the tip, because I love sussing out kindred spirits, and I also lived in Scotland, in Edinburgh, when I was younger because my parents traveled. Yeah. And so what's really funny is breaking down, like, wow, with the lyrics, it's always like this strong sense of place. And then with the music, it's definitely Southern second line funk, New Orleans. But wait a minute, there's like French Cajun, and that's French. And wait a second, that's kind of Scottish right there. Is that not a kind of a bagpipes figure you're doing on the guitar? So I love all these influences kind of, trying to create a unique blend, trying to create something new with it rather than kind of running over the same trail, but kind of, I think we can all relate to, getting on the road. And when you hit the road, wherever you are, you're just like, well, forget that. Now I got something else to, think about. You can really clear your mind when you're driving by yourself or with friends in a car. And, night driving has a very specific kind of mood that it conveys, and the rhythm of windshield wipers when it's raining, and the flashing of white lines when you're, getting
Do you
tired.
do that? Do you do that thing? Do you
Oh,
make
yeah.
do you make up songs in your head as you're driving? Are you kind of like soundtracking your journey as you go?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times I'm listening to other people's music while I'm driving, but definitely at times I'm doing that. And just like, how would you convey like this mood of freedom, even for the moment of like leaving a lot of kind of unwanted stuff behind, and just hitting the open road. My song Ode to the Open Road is like, oh man, we all just love it when there's that kind of freedom and liberation ahead, even if it never comes, even if it's like, oh, but now you're in the next town and you already got a parking ticket and you can't find the hotel or whatever. But it's that sense of that. And then really getting to some of these places and going, wow, it's not the Grand Canyon. It's not world famous. It doesn't have, 20 million hits on Instagram, but Dead Horse Ranch is incredible. Look how beautiful this is. Or Camelback Mountain in Phoenix, or, all over Texas. Texas is really, an incredible place and so huge. And, if you're from California and you drive from San Francisco to LA, it's, 5 hours to get into Texas. And it's like a whole, it's big country. It's where that whole idea comes from. So it's partly like the myths of the Old West and the way, like Larry McMurtry debunks these myths, and it doesn't make the figures any smaller. It makes us all see as humans the frailty of all of that. And so that's really what I'm trying to do, is get these kind of, second line funk grooves, and the musicianship, playing with Marty is just so fun. It's mostly just the two of us. And we really react to each other, and that really helps. But I try to combine that with these lyrical images, but the kind of, it's the, mixture of the words with the music, where I'm trying to kind of paint a picture. And I hope it is kind of vague enough that people can apply their own ideas to it. And not.
Were you always into that as well, in terms of things like film? Were you always into like the big expanse in terms of film?
Absolutely.
Like,
yeah.
Like John Ford.
Oh, so huge.
Westerns and like,
Absolutely. All the Monument Valley stuff, and big open spaces are really hopeful. And a lot of bad stuff happened there, but a lot of great stuff happened there too. And I prefer being like positive rather than negative. It doesn't mean that there isn't a role for someone else to, clang the bell on the negative, but I like try to see over and up on top of that. And, John Ford, I love, Wim Wenders for the kind of small story that seems huge. And, Days of Heaven, and, like, I don't need like narrative to drive something necessarily. And so I like these kind of big picture views, Do
you like writing for big picture views? I mean, you mentioned like, you wrote for some sort of smaller view commercial type things, which are quite, in a way, it's quite a narrow brief, isn't it, etc.
Right.
But do you see yourself in the future doing like more film work and stuff as well, but you trying to get the right kind of person on board visualizing?
I mean, that would be a dream. That would be incredible if that could ever happen. So I'm not sure. I know I would be ready on a moment's notice should that call come in. That somebody says, I'm working on this small kind of like Western thing. It's kind of Coen Brothers, a Little Windbenders. There's a lot of space. There's a lot of space in it. I heard your music. Seems perfect. I'd be like, when do we start?
You'd be like, yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm on it.
Yeah. Because it is really about the videos too. The picture with the words, with the music. That's the Trinity. And so the picture is huge.
You've worked with some great musicians. Who haven't you worked with? Who you would love to?
Oh my gosh! Wow, that is a really good question. They have to be alive, I guess.
Well, they don't have to be, but it helps if we're going to get it to happen.
I'm influenced by all kinds of music, and then I kind of like take it in, and then again, when I'm just being natural, it kind of sounds like it's Texas, Louisiana type music, but I'd love to play with Bonnie Raitt, just the kind of like sweet soul of all of that is kind of like, sap from a tree that's great or something, just so many people, I played with Steve Winwood, back in the 80s, and that was like just so impressive that somebody could be like so elegant and then kill it on guitar and B3 organ. And, so actually I did, play with him, but, there's just so many, because I learned from every kind of music has something to offer, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I'm going to copy it or write a song that's, really leaning in one of those directions, but I don't think,
I don't think that's it. I don't think that's, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, I don't think that's in you either. Because I think I think you're very comfortable with what you do and the way that you do it. And I don't mean that you don't experiment within that.
That's really nice. Yeah, that I would love it if that's the impression, because it's true for sure. And it was actually, to be honest, Graham, like that's a really good point, because all the music for hire for all those years, I could embody an idea, but the fact is, what's really great is just do the natural thing, like do what comes, naturally. I mean, I remember my parents' friends, one guy visited from North Carolina and played like the night they drove Old Dixie down on the piano, and I must have been like 8 or 9. I just went, okay, over here to the left, 9 o'clock. This guy is like, whoa. And just getting, so like that kind of like, I don't know, heavy spirit with no kind of, hype factor or glitz, the realness. It's kind of a search for authenticity, I would say,
Yeah. I think you, if you were looking at a collaborator, I think you would want them to come and bring something of what they do into what you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Without it necessarily changing what you do too far, so that it
loses. 100%. Yeah, for sure. And it's funny because Marty and I always in the studio, I'm like, well, what would you do with this? And he's amazing. He's like, yeah, I don't know. I'm going to react, like, play it and I'll let you know by playing it. And that's what's great about music, is it is a language. And so it's, it's like talking with your friend. It's a language. So it's funny, because that I could have said like, hey, Marty, are we going to like this restaurant? It's like, I don't know. I haven't eaten yet. I'll let you know after we eat there. So it is just a language to the reacting and the alchemy that comes from those blendings of instruments and sounds and rhythms and harmonies and stuff. That's like the magic of music to me, that interaction with other musicians.
Yeah,
I mean, if
no,
you're,
absolutely.
if you're Ravi Shankar or like, John McLaughlin, you can, Django Reinhardt, you can hold interest by yourself. That's amazing. Those guys around, Chet Atkins, it's incredible. But I do love sitting around and thinking like, gosh, why is the band so good? Like, why do I keep coming back? Why is Neil Young, it's not even really in tune right now, and it's pretty thrashy, but something is coming through that's so powerful. And that's what I really think about is it's not about shredding on guitar, it's not about the calisthenics of music. It's about listening to each other and the community of a band. And that's what I'm really interested in. And we do have a larger band when it calls for it, but it's the parts are Marty's and mine. And so we've kind of come to kind of be the band, if you will, because I play keyboards and keyboard bass and guitar and sing, and Marty plays pedal steel and bass and dobro and mandolin, and he's incredible with the technology, which I'm an absolute useless.
You call yourself a Luddite when it comes to technology.
Yeah, right, yeah. I mean, literally. People want to know why I play a Telecaster or Les Paul Jr. And it's like, because, that's all I can do. You just give me a Telecaster, I plug it in. I know the one amp, I know my guitar, but, foot pedals and computers and stuff. But I not just as an excuse, I just feel like that's not my territory. And I get to kind of focus on the intention of it and the kind of spirit of it. The groove, I'm really study the Levon Helm and just the great drummers and what that means. So I'm really into rhythm. And when I was a kid, as soon as I was proficient on guitar, I stopped and went to bass, and then I stopped and went to keyboards, and I kind of went all around the band, played a little bit of drums and stuff. So that's the territory for me, is that, interacting small band, U2, Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones.
And the thing is, when you've found those people and you found that community, as you called it, it never goes away, does it? Never goes away.
No,
it's quite amazing. I'm actually going to be interviewing later this week. Here's a first for everybody. I'm going to be interviewing Troy Miller, who I was in a band with when he was 10, I was 14. So that was a long time ago. He's now a world famous musician. I'm doing this. But we got together a little while back for his brother's wedding, and we put the initial band back together again, and it was like that.
Oh, how cool. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
In fact, I just did the same thing at a wedding of a guy I was in a band with, and it was the band, and we got back together, and it really is. It's there's so many kind of stand-ins for it, but cooking is another one. You know what I mean? It's like the same ingredients, and because everyone loves it, you feel like you're part of a fabric and part of a bigger thing. Like, I know what to do here. I'm responsible. I mean, even if you were to kind of assign the different roles to the 3 guitar players in Lynyrd Skynyrd, it's kind of perfect. It's just everybody knows their place, but not so much that they have to kind of, play big band music off of a chart, but they know their place and that they can like improvise. And when dynamics is so huge, it's time for you to listen and lay out. It's time for you to now like heat up and follow the, kind of suggestion.
Because you know each other, and you just feel it all together.
Yeah. And it's feel. I mean, it's feeling for the people and feeling, for the music. it really kind of is incredible the way you kind of go back to your own, like when I was playing in that wedding, I'm like, oh, I remember this song. Oh, right. Oh, right. But by the end of the song, it was just like totally fun. I wasn't thinking anymore of how to remember a song from 42 years ago, but just kind of play, that's why they call it playing, because it's playing.
Yeah.
Not like, hey, I'm doing some guitar working. No, I'm not doing guitar working. I'm doing guitar playing.
Let's bring this back round to where we started, my friend, with your latest music. What would you like people that they're listening now, which hopefully they might do if once people have checked out this podcast, they're going to go check you out on the streaming platforms, etc. They're listening. They're going to shut their eyes because it always helps. What do you want them to feel?
It's a really good question, because what do I want them to feel? I want them to feel like calm and peace and, joy and excitement. What's really funny is that, like when I was doing music for hire, I'd have, clients for, Coca-Cola say, faster, we would start with the beat. And I go faster, faster. And to me, that kind of faster, harder thing, it's great when it's, Michael Schenker and UFO or something, but it's not my jam. And so I love slow, a friend of mine made fun of me the other day, say like, dude, you do like slow jam jigs, right? That's like a jig. And I'm like, that's a waltz. And I'm like, okay, here I am doing jigs and waltzes at slow tempos. So I'm trying to put enough breath in it that the listener can come away with, like, wow, there was room for me in that. And it means I'm kind of exploring. It's kind of familiar. Like I love kind of, for a second, it sounds like Bruce Hornsby. Now for a second, it sounded like Van Morrison. Now for a second, but they're homages, and I never hide my sources. But it's funny. I was joking with Gabby, my wife, the other day, and I was saying, I like Little Richard and Jerry Lee Lewis, but I'm like never mad at the piano. You know what I mean? Like guitar, I can really dig in, and there's a good history of digging in on guitar, but digging in on piano is not what I do. So I like kind of soothing stuff down, calming stuff down. If there's such a thing, someone said, wait a minute, are you trying to say you're like trying to be the Sade of Leonard Skinner territory? I would go, yeah, that sounds kind of okay. That sounds good to me. Meaning, like we were talking about movies, Graham, the watchability. Why do you come back? You can watch this movie over and over and over. Whatever that is, I like to do that with the music. Like Spike Lee. Spike Lee calls it a joint. You're in it. This is my joint. I hope you want to stay. I'm not going to make you stay. And I'm not going to do it with, tempo and hard driving in your face. It's going to be with the opposite. It's going to be come hither instead of.
I'm going to say it for you. I'm going to give it to you so that you can now describe this to people. I think it's because there's sun in your music.
Oh,
right. And for all the scientists out there, of course, it takes about 8 minutes for the sun, the warmth of the sun and the light and everything to get to us. So it's a slow thing.
That's really good. I think that's exactly right. It is kind of like light and sun and yet, corny is a big thing with me on my radar. Like, no, no corny stuff, because it is this search for authenticity. Yeah. But yeah, definitely the light. I mean, one thing I think is funny about music, it is like, food and film and a lot of other stuff, is you can kind of go, wow, that's really kind of sad. It's in minor. It's like, but it's really hopeful and upbeat. And, Before Nightfall, Dead Horse Ranch, these are kind of like slow ballads. And I know a lot of people that would go like, Dead Horse, like, whoa, you could put that, don't make a title with that. So I like kind of doing what hasn't been done, or there's no point in kind of starting to try to do anything. But but I do like that idea that there's sun and light coming through there, even at the kind of most somber moments in the music. Is it's joyous. It's joy. Music brings me joy to create and to listen to, and especially to be collaborating with others and reacting in this kind of, alchemy that we're talking about,
And you do such a great job of it. Well, thank you so much
for
giving up your time to come and talk to us today.
Thank you so much, Graham, for having me. It was great fun.
No, absolute pleasure. Folks, please do go and check out the latest recordings of JC Miller. It's there for you to imbibe now on your favorite dot or download or streamy type thing or whatever. And of course, if you can, do go and support properly as well. If you ever,
and I'll go check out Deacon Blue, because that's a good tip. I'm gonna go hit it up.
JC's going to go and check out Deacon Blue, and then probably message me to go, oh my God, where have I been all my life?
Yeah, that sounds
we
about right.
hope that might happen. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks a lot, Graham.
Folks, I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, then this has been my music. Please do go and share, etc., amongst all of your lovely people that you know. And we'll see you again soon for more of the same. Until next time, bye for now. Thank you.